You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Appreciate you all. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being with us here all off season long. We are so thankful that you decide to make Locked On Sooners your first listen every day, that you are in the comment sections on YouTube, that you're interacting with us on social media as well. Very much appreciate your support, your time, your energy, and your efforts to help us make this show great. And I speak for Jay when I want to say thank you again for making Locked On Sooners a part of your every single day. But let's take a look at the transfer portal, at what Oklahoma's done so far. Sydney Berzon, the pitcher from LSU, committed to the Sooners last week. Hadn't had a chance to talk about it yet, so want to make sure that we touch on this. A really, really strong addition for the Oklahoma Sooners. You look at Softball America's transfer portal rankings, and she comes in at number 1, and for good reason. I mean, she's an experienced pitcher. She's had some really good success at LSU, has some things that she has to continue to improve on, but with Jennifer Rocha, she can continue to do that. We've seen pitchers come to Oklahoma and raise their game, whether it was Alex Chirocco or Hope Troutwine or Sam Landry. Pitchers have done that on a number of occasions, come to Oklahoma and improved their stats as transfers. So Sydney Berzon back in 2025, she was 18-8 with a 2.46 ERA, 104 strikeouts and 139 innings and 44 walks. If there's an area where she can continue to get better, it's in that department right there. It's the walks. You don't want to be issuing that many walks. She was good in some games like in an elimination game against UConn. She threw a 3-0 shutout. Again, UConn, but she was good. She rose to the occasion. And then they didn't pitch her in their next elimination game, kind of, I think, trying to save her for the regional finals, but they didn't get that far and got bounced. So a good addition, like somebody that can lead your rotation and somebody that you can put out front in a group that includes Kirsten Deal, who's going to be back, very experienced, Peyton Monticelli, who's a good situational reliever. It's going to include Audrey Lowry, who, she had some, true freshman struggles in the first part of the season, dealt with some injuries in the middle part of the season, and then had that game against Texas where she got back in the circle for the first time in a long time and got beat up. I mean, she got beat up a lot, but then she responded. She bounced back. And over the final 5 outings of the season for Audrey Lowry, didn't allow a run in like 7 1/3 innings and allowed just 5 hits. So a really strong bounce back for Lowry after she allowed, I think it was like 5 or 6 runs in that game against Texas where Oklahoma led 8-0 in like the 3rd or 4th inning. Lowry came in, gave up a lot of those runs, and then Texas ultimately tied the game. But I think the ceiling is still high for Lowry, and the arrow is still pointing up, and she showed the resilience and the mental fortitude to be able to bounce back in that over the final 5 appearances of the season. But it wouldn't surprise me, and it probably would behoove Oklahoma to look at pitcher in the transfer portal. And I think there's a couple pitchers that Oklahoma could look at. I got 4 players that I think Oklahoma should take an interest in, or at least take a look at, and they might already be doing that. But 4 portal targets, if you're watching with us here on YouTube, I got the graphic up on the screen. But for those of you who aren't watching, my number 1 portal target, Addison Fisher, the pitcher from UCLA. She was a true freshman in 2024, and she had a 2.59 ERA. She was 16-2 with 100 strikeouts and 113 innings, gave up 41 walks, again, too many walks, and allowed a batting average of 0.241, a little bit too high. You want to have that closer to sub 2 for a pitcher that you're going to throw a lot of innings, but still not bad at all. She's a good pitcher. She's somebody that you can have. If you have a Sydney Berzon, you have Addison Fisher as your top 2 pitchers, you can go a long way. I think Oklahoma rode Sam Landry a little bit too hard, but a lot of it was because they didn't feel incredibly comfortable with any of their secondary pitchers to start games. They did start Kirsten Deal in one game, but then they went to Landry. I want to say like late in the game. I can't remember if that was the Oregon game. I think it might've been the Oregon game in the elimination game, but you have to ride two pitchers. Nyjah Kennedy showed us like everybody's a little bit human. Even the best pitchers in softball, they run out of steam at some point. And so got to find a second pitcher. Addison Fisher to me is the best one available. There's the best one available according to Softball America. But you also got to look at catcher, and I'll talk about the number 4 portal target here on the list here in a second. Maya Johnson, a pitcher out of Belmont, but let's talk about catcher for a second as well. I think that's high on a lot of people's portal priorities. Isabella Emmerling, she's a veteran and she has a lot of pop to her bat, but sometimes it seems like she's just taking the Merrill from Signs approach. If you've seen the movie Signs featuring Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix's character Merrill, the catchphrase is swing away, right? When they're battling the aliens in Sign, Mel Gibson looks to Joaquin Phoenix and says, swing away, Merrill, swing away. And earlier in the movie, he's in the Army recruitment office and runs into an old guy from high school. And they're talking about, having the home run record, but then the old friend from high school is like, he also had the strikeout record. And Merrill's like, it felt wrong not to swing. And I felt like that's where Isabella Emmerling was coming from at times during the season. Again, great pop, good power, but at times just trying to swing as hard as she could and not showing great plate discipline at times as well. So I think there's potential for Oklahoma to upgrade at catcher. We'll see if Patty Gasso, JT Gasso, Jennifer Rocha want to do that. It's hard to say. Now, they've got a really good catcher in Riley Zach on the roster. They're bringing in Kendall Wells, the top catcher in the 2025 recruiting class. And so you could go a couple different directions at catcher. Again, I want to show the two names, Grace Jenkins. She's the UConn catcher, and Brooke Wells. She was at Houston, but Grace Jenkins for UConn, she bat .424 with 21 home runs, 68 RBIs. She had an on-base percentage of .535 and a slugging percentage of .906. Like, that'll play. I get UConn wasn't playing the toughest softball schedule in the world. She'd be making a big jump into the SEC game, but you don't hit .424 on accident. You don't hit 21 home runs on accident. Like, I don't care what the level of competition is. That's pretty salty. Against Nebraska in the women's college, or in the NCAA tournament, I should say, she had 2 walks against, Jordy Ball and the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And then against Sydney Berzon at LSU, she went 1 for 2 with a walk. Like, when the competition raised, she was right there with them. Now, it didn't have the power numbers in the NCAA tournament performances, but still got on base. And that matters for a lot. You got to get on base to score runs. And if you can't get on base, you can't score runs. What was some of Oklahoma's problem? At times in the back half of the lineup, they struggled to get people on base for the front half of the lineup to be able to knock them in. A lot of what the front half of the lineup was relying on was Abigail Dayton getting on base and letting Cassidy Pickering and Ella Parker be able to knock her in. If you can get a Grace Jenkins, that's somebody that you can slide into your catcher spot, and you could maybe even hit her out of the 6 hole. Because as it stands right now, probably Ailana Agbayani is your 6 hitter, but I think she'd be even better suited as a number 7 hitter. Because if you're looking at your lineup and it's Cassidy Pickering, Ella Parker, Gabby Garcia, and then Nelly McEnroe Marinas, and then I'm batting Sydney Barker, number 5. Like, that's my first baseman. She's my number 5 hitter at minimum. If she could be a cleanup hitter. Again, she went 3 for 3 against Nyjah Kennedy. She's got pop. She's got the RBI potential. I think she'd be a great 3, 4, or 5 hitter. Someone that you can play at first base every single day, and you're going to get great production out of Sydney Barker. But then if you have a Grace Jenkins that comes in as your number 6 hitter, and you push Ailana Agbayani to your 7, and then maybe a Tia Molloy at 8, or a Kai Minor that's coming in the 2025 class, the number 1 player in the 2025 recruiting class, in the 8 hole, and then you got Abigail Dayton in the 9 hole, that lineup's looking really, really good. Again, Oklahoma's number 2 in offense, in scoring offense in 2025. They were really good. Was it perfect? No. Did they not have enough situational hitting? Yes. Did they struggle with runners on base during the NCAA tournament, Women's College World Series? Yes. But Grace Jenkins gives you an opportunity to add another big bat to your lineup. Another one that I find is kind of intriguing, and this might fly under the radar for a lot of people, and this is Brooke Wells out of Houston. She played her true freshman season for the Cougars this year, hit .341, 10 home runs, 47 RBIs. She had a 645 slugging percentage and a 478 on base percentage with 35 walks. Now, Houston was terrible. They finished last in the Big 12. And again, this is a Big 12 with no Oklahoma, no Texas. And still Houston was not good. But she led Houston in pretty much everything. Batting, home runs, RBIs, slugging, on base, walks, everything. So that's a potential player that you could put into your lineup. And again, you might be able to get more out of her batting in an Oklahoma lineup where there are a lot more threats, and she's going to see a lot better pitches in her at-bats because people got to worry about everybody around her. Get with JT Gasso, get in Oklahoma's strength and conditioning, get in their training programs, get in the film room, and potentially you can get more out of Brooke Wells. Now, she'd be a true freshman, and Patty Gasso's talked about how she doesn't necessarily want to recruit over the prospects that she's brought in or is bringing in, and totally get that. You want to allow those players to come in and compete for opportunities. So Oklahoma might not pursue catcher at all. And it wouldn't surprise me one bit if they decided not to pursue catcher or pitcher, to be honest. Because if you look at catcher, yeah, Isabella Emmerling, she's got to improve at the plate. Has to improve behind the plate. There were too many, balls that she dropped or runners that she wasn't able to throw down. Got to improve in every facet. But you're bringing in Kendall Wells, the number one catcher in the 2025 class. You've got Riley Zash at catcher as well. Somebody who showed that she's got some potential as well. So you've got some interesting options, but if you want a plug and play catcher right now that you feel like is ready to go and ready to make the leap, Grace Jenkins, Brooke Wells gives you a good potential opportunity. And that brings us back to pitcher. You've got Sydney Berzon, and you've got a couple veterans in Deal and Monticelli. You've got a young pitcher with a lot of potential in Audrey Lowry. You got Sophia Bordy, who at this moment, there's no inclination that she won't be back. We'll have to wait and see. But until her or her family say that she won't be back, I'm fully anticipating Sophia Bordy back in the Oklahoma, circle, competing for innings and looking to make an impact. Remember, she reclassified to join the team last year. So she was very young, and whatever it was that she had to deal with, sometimes you're just not ready for college life. I remember that first time that all those tests came up, like 4 or 5 weeks into the semester, and I am struggling. I got 4 tests and a couple papers, and I'm like, what do I do? And just really struggling, overwhelmed, stressed to the max, not sure what to do first, and really I'm basically kind of having a breakdown. And I remember my dad talking to me and saying, hey, what do you got to do first? What's the first thing you got to do? And I was a 17-year-old going on 18. I was a young college freshman. So I totally get it. Sometimes there are things that happen in college and mentally it kind of drains you and it hits your system. And so you got to take a moment to regroup and recalibrate and get back in the saddle. So I'm hopeful that Sophia Bordy is able to come back to Norman and be a part of this thing just for her, showing that resilience, that mental fortitude to get back on the horse and get back in the game. But so you've got a lot of potential, and then you're bringing in Alyssa Parker, the number 1 overall pitcher in the country in 2025. So you've got a lot of really, really young potential on this roster for 2025, 2026. But if you're not sure that you want to rely on that young potential in 2026, I can totally understand Patty Gasso and Jennifer Rocha going after Addison Fisher or this next pitcher I want to talk about real briefly before we get out of here. And that's Maya Johnson. Maya Johnson for Belmont. She went 24-6 with a 1.52 ERA with 366 strikeouts in 207 innings. 366 strikeouts in 207 innings. She had 24 games with 10 plus strikeouts. She had 5 games with 15 or more strikeouts. And then she had games of 17, 17, and 18 strikeouts on the season. Just absolutely nuts, by the way. Against Arizona State, she went 8 innings, gave up 2 hits, 1 earned run, and struck out 12 in the win, in a 5-1 win. Absolutely big-time game. Now, in the NCAA tournament, when Maya Johnson was forced to pitch against Virginia Tech, didn't fare as well. She gave up 5 earned runs in 2 different outings. against the Hokies in Belmont's elimination. So, she's a junior, a redshirt junior. So somebody that pitched a little bit, has some experience, obviously has some impressive production at lower level of college softball, the mid-major level. But I mean, that's a lot of potential that you're looking at. Again, she threw 207 innings, just 22 walks in 207 innings. So you see, like, she's pounding the strike zone. She is not afraid to pound the strike zone. And against good hitting teams like Virginia Tech is, you're going to get beat. You're going to get hit sometimes. Get her with Jennifer Rocha, help her hone in some of those things, and potentially she can be even better than what she was this last year for Belmont. So those are 4 options in the transfer portal that I think Oklahoma should take a look at pitcher, at catcher. But again, Patty Gasso is the GOAT. I'm not going to sit here and question her or tell her anything of what she should do. But if this was me, this is just my opinion. These are 4 players that I think are really intriguing that Oklahoma could look to make an addition for. But if they don't, totally understandable. They've got a lot of young talent on this team that you may want to give an opportunity to. But that's going to do it for today's little bit prolonged edition of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. You can follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. The show is at Locked On Sooners. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. Make sure you follow Jay at Unfair Sports and check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. But until next time, for my buddy Jay, I'm John Williams. Talk to you then. Boomer Sooner. And also Thunder Up. I know maybe didn't go so well